This episode is for those of you who are thinking about applying for a visa or residence permit, or maybe you have already decided to apply, but you are living with that constant worry. What if they refuse? What if I don't even understand the reason? You can spend months collating documents, checking every detail, and still feel that anxiety. Is there some hidden red flag the consulate will spot immediately? In my consultations, I hear the same questions over and over again. People usually ask, how long is a criminal record certificate valid? Do I need an apostille? Do I need a sworn translation? How much money should be in my bank account so the consulate doesn't say it's not enough? And what exactly do they look for in a business plan or high-skilled worker application? Does my profile really meet their standards? And this fear is completely irrational. A refusal isn't just unpleasant. It's lost time, lost money, and sometimes a negative mark that can affect your future applications in that country. If you prepare your file by copying what worked for friends without understanding which documents actually cause refusals, you are essentially buying a very expensive lottery ticket. My name is Diana Sadikova. I'm a lawyer and head of immigration at Natlan. For more than 15 years, our company has been fully supporting clients on their journey to relocation, business immigration, and real estate investments in Europe and worldwide. Let us start with document number 1, the criminal record certificate. On paper, it looks simple. You request it, you receive it, you submit it. In reality, many otherwise strong applications fail exactly here. The first trap is validity. Different countries use different rules. Some accept a certificate that is no more than 3 months old. Others allow up to 6 months from the date of issue. These rules are usually written in regulations or consulate checklists. If you turn up with a certificate that is almost a year old, there is a high chance they simply will not accept it. The second trap is legislation. For example, an apostille. For most residence roads in Europe, a foreign policy certificate must be either apostilled or legalized in another form if that is what the national law requires. If there is no apostille in a situation where it's mandatory, the document can be treated as formally invalid, even if you genuinely have no criminal record. The third trap is translation. A very common mistake is to provide a translation that is not done by a sworn translator where this is required. What can you do about it in practice? First, check in advance the validity period of the certificate your consulate or immigration authority accepts, and time your request accordingly. Second, clarify whether an apostille or another form of legislation is required for your specific road. And third, use only the translation and certification formats that are explicitly accepted in the country where you apply, even if that means redoing a translation you already have. Now, let's move to the second key document, proof of funds and income. This, along with the police certificate, is one of the biggest reasons people get refusals. The official wording is usually insufficient financial means. When you hear abbreviation like IPREM or terms like income units or UDI, it may sound abstract, but these are not theoretical concepts, they are very real numbers written into immigration law. IPREM, for example, is Spain's public income indicator. It's used to calculate minimum income for many visas, especially those not tied to a job contract. UDI, or income unit, is the same idea in other countries, a legally defined minimum monthly amount you must have to support yourself. And if you're applying with a family, this number multiplies. 1 unit for you, additional units for each family member. The names differ from country to country, but the logic is identical. Your income and your savings must reach a certain legal minimum. And here's where many applicants get caught. On paper, they are almost there, but in reality, they fall short. Authorities look at both monthly and annual income. For non-working residence roles, study permits, family reunification, or passive income visas, there is always a minimum monthly income you must show. If your income dips below that line, even occasionally, the consulate sees a risk that you might need public support. They also look at your bank balance. Some countries require a specific lump sum to be in your account on the day you apply. For example, a certain number of minimums or a full year of IPREM. And it's not just the amount that matters, it's the origin. If you suddenly receive a large transfer a week before applying with no clear explanation, it can raise questions even if the total looks fine. A very common mistake is aiming for the exact minimum with no buffer. And another one, forgetting that requirements grow quickly for families. What might be enough for one person is almost never enough for a family of 3 or 4. Now let's move to the third key document, the business plan and the high-skilled workers file. And this is exactly where many entrepreneurial and highly qualified applications fall apart. Not because someone forgot a checkbox, but because the content itself is weak. If you're applying as an entrepreneur or self-employed, bringing a placeholder business plan is a major risk. A plan with no market analysis, no realistic financial projections, and no explanations of how you'll actually earn money and pay taxes in the host country, that is a red flag. Immigration authorities read these plans very practically. They ask questions like, is there real demand for what you want to do? Will your activity bring any benefit to the country? Does this look like a genuine business or just a legal shell created to get residence? For high-skilled worker permits like Portugal's D3 or similar visas elsewhere, the focus is on your qualifications and your salary. Your education and experience must match the level required by the program, and your employment contract has to meet the legal salary threshold, often around 1.5 times the national minimum or median wage for that profession. Refusals often happen when the salary is below the official minimum for a highly qualified role, or when the diploma exists on paper but it isn't supported by consistent work experience in a coherent CV. I'd love to hear which document worries you the most right now. The police certificate, the proof of funds, or the business or high-skilled file. Your answers help me understand which topics need deeper, dedicated episodes. In reality, most refusals don't come from some hidden issue in your past. They come from 3 very simple things. 1. A police certificate that expired or not properly legalized. 2. Financial resources that don't meet the real minimums once calculated correctly. 3. And a business or a high-skilled project that doesn't look realistic in the country's actual economy. So how do these documents fit into your bigger immigration journey from temporary residence to permanent residence and eventually citizenship? At the first stage, you need to prove 3 things: a clean past financial independence and a credible basis for your residence, whether that's study, work, business, or passive income. If your documents are already on the edge at this step, you risk a refusal and long delay right from the beginning. To reach permanent residence, you usually need to live several years on temporary permits while maintaining the conditions of your program. Financial stability and compliance with the law are checked again at renewal and long-term residence stages. If your businesses never become real or your income later drops below the threshold, that can block your progress. Now, regarding the citizenship. Authorities look at your entire history. Any criminal convictions, tax compliance, whether you meet residence requirements, and how transferred your income and activities have been over the years. In other words, your path from the first visa to permanent residence, and if you choose to citizenship, is built on very concrete evidence. Who you are, what money you live on, and what you actually do in the country. Each of these documents is on the brick in that structure. If you don't want to walk this path blindly and want to understand what will be required at each stage, it often makes sense to review your situation with a professional before you apply, not after a refusal. If you need a personalized strategy, you can book a consultation with our team at Natlan. We will review your documents, income, and plans, highlight the weak spots that could lead to a refusal, and help you build a realistic roadmap from your first residence permit to long-term status and if you choose citizenship. And now I'm curious, which road are you personally considering? Study, work, business, family, or passive income?